The information given on this program is not, nor is it intended to be legal advice. You should consult an attorney for individual advice regarding your own situation. Legal Help Live is brought to you by Pan's Restaurant and Coffee Shop at 6710 La Tierra Boulevard in Los Angeles. Barney's Beanery at 8447 Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. iLearnFast.com, a division of CityCom, and Rodolfo Buonocore at www.rodolfobuonocore.com.
Well, time for Legal Help Live. You got Ralph here, you got Steve there. We're the Legal Help Live team. We're answering your legal questions, but first you got to call us at 1-800-405-4222. That is a toll-free number. That's how you get in to ask that legal question and get that legal answer. And Steve, you know, recently we did something that was kind of nice, and I think we should do it again.
Yeah.
Everybody who calls in, gets on the air, asks a legal question, gets a legal answer, will get a gift certificate for dinner or lunch for two at a restaurant of Steve's and my choice.
You know, what are you doing in a suit and tie? That's my first question.
I didn't want you to outdress me today.
No. We dressed up for the holidays, or we dressed up for something or other. But I always thought that ties were discriminatory because the only people I see wearing ties are people working in toll booths, people working collecting parking meters.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about our men and women and
full dress uniform.
But that's something different. But what anybody believes is constitutional to make someone wear a tie.
Well, I don't even know, where did this come from? Whose idea was this? I mean, these are nice ties, but
from lynchings or something.
You think this is
pretty horrible situation?
Originated in the gallows.
So if you've got a legal question, anything from whether or not it's appropriate to have group living homes in a residential area for alleged drug addicts, whether or not people who are convicted child molesters should be able to live in your neighborhood, and whether or not you can picket in front of their house and whether it's constitutional to do that.
How about if somebody who has to register as a mentally disordered sex offender, how about if, can they go to a park? Can they just visit a park just like anybody else?
Or if they're on the register and you find out about it, can you write it up and circulate it to everyone in the community saying this person's a sexual deviant, this one's a child molester, we don't want you living in our neighborhood. Are you liable for that? Should you be liable for that? What about the sober living homes where zoning says that there shall be single family
residents?
Single family residents.
And you find 15 people living in 6
people,
bedrooms.
It's usually 6 or under, living in a residential neighborhood and charging for that, running a business there. Is that legal? Whether or not you can stop a marijuana shop from going into your community, is that legal? Whether or not you can sue lawyers and doctors for malpractice, can you sue the government? Can you sue a police department if they make a major mistake?
Like running you over.
Or shooting you, or arresting you, and you're found not guilty.
Yeah, what happens if, Steve, what happens if you are arrested, if somebody's arrested and there's a warrant in the system, but it turns out the warrant was entered absolutely in error, should never have been entered.
Or but the typical one is the warrant is to arrest Ralph Saltzman, and they do arrest Ralph Saltzman sitting right here, except unfortunately it's not Ralph B. Saltzman, it's really Ralph Saltzman, and you're not the Ralph Saltzman they're looking for. Can you sue?
I'm glad for that.
I mean, that's an actual case. It wasn't Ralph Saltzman, but it's an actual
case. No, that does happen. Absolutely it happens. There are mistakes that get entered into the system, and a police officer pulls somebody over in a traffic stop. They go into the system to see if there are any wants or warrants, and they find one.
And what about the recent tax that we all voted on? What was it, Prop 32?
That was one, yeah.
Is that the one that raises all our state income tax?
Yes.
So can they make, as it says now, it's retroactive for all of 2012?
How can that be?
Is that legal?
We
Is
just
it not
passed
legal?
it.
Should it not be
Is it
legal?
effective yet? Is it effective upon passage? Is it effective January 1, 2013?
Well,
And if it's effective January 1, 2013, how can they collect money as taxes for 2012?
so if you don't want to call the governor, you can call us at 1-800-405-4222. We won't ask for political donations. We'll
No, we
try
won't.
and resolve some of your problems. So,
Absolutely. So what's happening in the law today?
well, today, at this very moment, there's a caller on the line, and I'd like to answer some calls. So
Okay.
why don't we go to the lines? We've told them to call in at the number that's on the screen, and let's go to the phone calls. Barbara from Santa Monica, how can we help you?
Barbara, you're on the air. Okay.
Our producer said he's trying to get it up. So,
We have a problem with the line.
all right.
Can you hear me now?
We hear
Oh,
you.
you are coming over
We hear
loud
you
and clear.
perfectly, Barbara. How are you today?
Okay, pretty good. How about
Good.
yourself?
We're doing very well.
How can we help you?
I would like to know how to subpoena records from the Parking Violations Bureau.
Oh.
Quickly, this is what happened. There are parking spaces throughout the county of LA where some of them are free. So you might have 1 or 2 blocks with meters, or the curb is numbered, and then you go to that parking station and you pay according to that number. This space appeared to be one of those that was free. It had no parking meter, and yet I was issued a ticket. I'd like to subpoena the Parking Violations Bureau to give me the records of how often they're issuing tickets, because I believe that they're deliberately leaving it unnumbered and no meter and just issuing tickets.
Okay, there's for parking violations, you start out not in the regular court system. You're in the quote hearing officer thing for the parking. It's not like a real judicial system.
Oh, yes, I understand that.
So-
I have a hearing date already, but I need
but-
to know how to subpoena the
But-
records
Barbara,
so
how
I
far-
can present
how far-
those at the hearing.
How far away is your hearing date?
Well,
You pick up
when they told me it might take a while, I changed the hearing date. I went into the Parking Bureau to change the hearing date, and I have not received a letter with the new date.
Okay.
You pick up the phone, you call the parking bureau, and you ask them, point blank, where do I get subpoenas? They may or may not. You may or may not have subpoena power. But if you get found guilty there, you can file for review in the Superior Court. And in the Superior Court, it's the regular courthouse. It is a de novo hearing. And in the
Which means they start again.
and in the Superior Court, they lodge the administrative record, but the judge can review all the evidence. And in the Superior Court, you do have subpoena powers.
In addition to that, if you don't have a hearing date, and this is the reason I was asking about that, if you don't have a hearing date now and you don't have one on the horizon, what you might do is write a letter, call it a Freedom of Information Act demand, send it to the Parking Bureau of the city that we're dealing with. I think you said LA City. Send it to them, call it a Freedom of Information Act request demand, and demand exactly the records that you're looking for. They have to respond. That's public record, and they have to respond to you.
Or the other alternative is to write a discovery request, which is a letter to the same bureau with the citation number, and specify everything you want in discovery, and you want an opportunity to review it prior to the hearing. And again, if they don't respond to that, then your due process rights are violated, and you can take that up in the court system.
And Barbara, by the way, you've now gotten 3 separate suggestions as to how to get documents. They are not mutually exclusive. You could do all 3 at the same time. And if it were me, that's exactly what I would do. I would do all 3.
Oh, really? Thank you. Well, I've been taking notes, so I've got good notes. I've written this down verbatim, and thank you so very much.
And if you call,
Okay.
if you call the 800 number during normal business hours, you've just gotten a lunch or dinner for two at a restaurant of our choice for free. Just give them the information so they can mail it to you.
And they may or may not have valet parking, so you don't even have to worry about the parking meter.
Oh, okay.
They
So
have-
the same number, call it like 9 to 5, and I will
Yeah,
get a
right.
gift certificate?
Yeah,
Exactly,
you
but
ju-
not today.
You just tell them that you want a gift certificate for a restaurant and give them the information, they'll mail it back to you.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Nice call, Barbara. Thank
And
you
a
very
big
much.
help. Happy holidays.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Barbara. Bye-bye.
All right,
Let's go
so-
back to the phones. Let's keep running.
Scott,
Scott.
what is happening?
All right, so I got a red light camera ticket up in here in Culver City, and I heard these cases were being dismissed. So why do I have to appear in court?
Well, you're sort of partially heard right and you're sort of partially heard wrong. The city of Los Angeles, under most circumstances, has turned off their red light cameras, and they're not giving any citations, and they're not following up on anything in regard to those.
Right. They're not prosecuting the
But
cases that have already been
There
filed.
are some city of Los Angeles red light tickets that are being given by the sheriff's department, which patrols the MTA,
Right.
and they have their own camera system. Each city has the right to make its own determination whether or not they're doing red light cameras. Culver City is still using the red light camera system, so that's why you got the ticket.
And that's why you have to go.
Okay.
And Scott, that's why you have to go to court, because as Steve says, some jurisdictions are, some aren't. Culver City is, so therefore you have to go to court. And those cases are not. The camera may be automatic, but the convictions aren't.
And whether or not the red light camera system is valid and whether or not the government can prove the case against you, there are cases going both ways. And a number of months ago, the California Supreme Court, which is the highest court in California, took the case, has vacated all the lower court decisions, so there's no law on it right now. It's pending in the Supreme Court of California, and within the next year or so, we'll know whether or not all these prosecutions were valid or invalid.
One hopes. And Scott, when you go to trial, object to all the documents, all the evidence. You may be in front of a judge who's going to sustain those objections, keep that evidence out, and then you'll be found not guilty.
And one thing you can look at is there's a website called redlightcameras.com.
Something like that.
Something,
yeah.
and it goes through all this stuff, all the objections, the things that you might consider doing. So before you go down there, you ought to do that, and you ought to do some discovery. If you look at the back of the letter you got, it gives you information about where you can go and look at all this stuff before the hearing starts. And if you've had no other tickets before, you can go to traffic school on these if you're found guilty or plead guilty.
Unless you have a commercial driver's license.
So there are lots of things you can do, and you should take advantage of them.
Actually,
Okay.
that's true. Okay, Scott.
And you get
All right.
Yeah.
dinner or lunch at a restaurant of our choosing. Call that number during normal business hours and tell them that you want it, and we'll be glad to send it to you.
All right.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
Scott.
And good
You
luck
bet.
on your ticket.
Yeah, good luck on the ticket. Thanks for calling Legal Help Live. Scott called us at 1-800-405-4222.
So,
Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break. I mean, a really short break, and we'll be back in just a little bit. We'll be taking your calls. You'll be calling us. You'll be asking legal questions. You'll be getting gift certificates for two for dinner at a restaurant of Steve's and my choice. When we come back, which will be in a moment.
Stay tuned for more Legal Help Live.
Giving a little can mean a lot to people who are hungry and homeless. Victims of domestic violence need help every day.
I'm here to volunteer.
Together, we can do it. If you do one thing, Take one step to help those who need it the most in your community. You just might find that you can bring a smile to those who need it the most. Share your caring at opcc.org.
Looking for something to do this week? You could visit the California Heritage Museum. The museum is open every Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. till 4. Stop by and catch our latest exhibit, find unusual gifts in the museum shop, and picnic on the lawn. We're a block from the beach at Ocean Park Boulevard and Main Street in Santa Monica. The California Heritage Museum. Discover us.
When I grow up, I want to help animals. When I grow up, I want to help animals. When I grow up, I want to help animals.
Tom is my brother. He always made me laugh.
Tom is my firstborn. I taught him how to drive.
Tom is my son. At 20, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. The illness took him to the street and we feared we'd lost him forever.
But I got help from Step Up on Second, and today I have a home. And my friends and family are back in my life.
Step Up on Second, rebuilding lives one step at a time.
Okay, we are back. Ralph here, Steve there. We're the Legal Help Live team. You're calling us at 1-800-405-4222. By the way, that's a toll-free number. That means you don't have to pay for it. We pay for it. It's our pleasure. You'd be asking us legal questions, getting legal answers on such topics as, well, we've already covered subpoena power in parking violations. We've talked about red light cameras already. If you've been run over by a truck, call us. We'll give you what legal rights you have. If you've been run over by a mail truck, you've got some different legal rights, and you've got some obligations as well.
How about if you go to a pharmacist and you give them a prescription, and you get the pills, and you always knew that the pills were pink. You get them home, it's dark. You take 3 or 4 of these pills like the doctor prescribes. They're blue. You found out they put the wrong pills in the wrong jar, but they've got the right name on it. You get violently ill. Can you sue the pharmacist? Do you sue the doctor who wrote the prescription? What can you do in something like that?
Excellent. And if you're in surgery and the doctor takes out the wrong kidney? Is that medical malpractice?
And who do you sue if you go over the fiscal cliff and get injured? Which I keep hearing the fiscal cliff.
Well, we don't know what's at the bottom.
Yeah, who knows?
We got some more calls. I think we should take some phone calls. What do you think? Okay, we're gonna go to the Valley and talk to Mark. Mark, come on and talk to us.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
What's
How are
happening,
you?
Mark? You sound so serious today.
Oh yeah, well it's a real bummer. About 30 plus years ago, I was in college, just out of the military.
What was your major?
My girlfriend, fiance.
Oh.
And I lived with several other guys. We all had, small, minor amounts of marijuana. And everybody was at class that day, and all of a sudden the house got raided. Well, because the doors weren't locked and everything collectively accumulated to more than 1 ounce, I got charged with a felony.
What state?
California.
All right, boy.
And here's the problem. I never found out during discovery phase that the person who sent the police there was actually my fiance, who had been arrested unbeknownst to me for selling. And in fact, she was the one who we usually got our weed from, right?
Right.
So they come in, they raid the place, and she had just been there not too long before.
You were living with a rat.
Yeah, well, you know what? I protected her.
You didn't marry her, did you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you married to her now.
No, well, she broke up with me not too long after, mainly because of her parents and the arrest. And the irony is I protected her.
Okay, so then you took the fall.
I took the fall, and I only just found out from somebody who was gravely ill that the person who actually got arrested and sent them to me was my fiancée. So this whole time they had obscured the fact and did not make it transparent during discovery. I feel not only should my name be cleared, and it was also, when the judgment was, it was a wobbler of some sort, and
Right,
that
so, yeah,
it wouldn't be a felony eventually, but somehow it never got.
Well, here's what you can do now.
Old Judge Gilbert in Pasadena, I think his name was.
Well, here's what you can do now. You can probably hire a lawyer for this, and you might want to consider doing that. But since the case was alternatively a felony or a misdemeanor, did you serve time on this thing?
No, I had a good, I wasn't a bad guy.
You pay a fine, and you were put on probation. Is that right?
Yes, sir. And I went along with all elements of the probation, and
how do you know it's a felony now?
Well, it was a felony, and it was called a wobbler by the judge. And if I adhered to the provisions of the probation, I was supposed to be reduced to a misdemeanor, even though it still, I believe it still affects my right.
Okay, here's what you have to do. Whether you can set the conviction aside or not, I don't know. But there's a thing called expungement, and you should, and you can make a motion to get to. First of all, you have to have the file pulled. It'll be in some microfiche place, someplace. Have to get the file. It's a public record. It'll probably take a few weeks to get it. Then you need to have someone look at the file and determine whether or not it was a misdemeanor that you pled to, or whether it was reduced down. If it wasn't, then you need to make a motion to expunge the record and reduce it down to a misdemeanor. Under the circumstances you're talking about, that will probably happen. On a misdemeanor, since you're finished with probation years ago, they can then expunge it, becomes a not guilty, it gets dismissed, and basically for all purposes other than regulatory purposes, it's over. And
Mark, what do you do now?
Well, I've actually been pretty well educated, and this has stopped me from getting federal jobs over the years. I've literally gotten 100% on I couldn't even get a job at the post office, even though I maxed out the test several times over the years. I was the highest placer in the county and stuff like that. Well, and it's just ruined these cops didn't even tell me it was my girlfriend, fiance, who had actually facilitated this.
Another possibility, and I'm not saying this is really possible, but it is procedurally possible. You might hire an attorney and have a discussion with somebody who specializes in criminal procedure. It's conceivable that you could bring these facts to the attention of the judge, not just by your declaration, but by some other independent corroborating evidence, declarations, other people's testimony, and other documents that I don't even know if they exist or not, and you might have the conviction set aside altogether. That's possible.
Well, I think that's the fairest thing when you consider that detectives in their notes somewhere, they know that they arrested this girl and that what she did is she brought more over and left it there at my house where she left her clothes and all that other stuff.
You were set up, but the problem
is... I was totally set up. And how did these cops get away with doing such a thing? It's just egregious.
Problem is, this is sort of like old cheese, okay? The case is really old. It begins to smell.
Well, I only just discovered this. I had no clue. I was like the last person who ever...
Mark, Mark, I don't think you should take this sitting down. Now that you've got this information, now that you're armed with these facts, I think that you should hire an attorney who works in criminal law, knows criminal procedure, knows how to make a motion to set this aside. It's going to require an intense investigation. It's going to require a lot of documents, a lot of evidentiary materials, files from the police department, perhaps statements from police officers, maybe retired police officers, other declarations and other documents. These things are going to have to be assembled in such a way that a Superior Court judge is going to be convinced that you were wrongly convicted in the first instance, that there were procedural and constitutional violations of your rights in the first place, and that now, 30 years later, your conviction should be set aside.
And she's the one who brought ounces of weed over to the house, a couple ounces of weed, and left it there with her clothes as usual. And then the next day she came over, gave me a kiss, and said, "I'll see you later." And the next thing I know, cops are at my house in about 5-10 minutes.
You know, another thing is you might want to consider a pardon. which is another way to get the whole thing set aside.
Well,
There-
that's a whole political.
there-
How about
there-
the Freedom of Information Act?
Well, that may be part of how your attorney gathers information. And if you want to get a head start, you can do that too. You could ask for all the files, all the notes, all the investigative materials from the arrest that took place 30 years ago. You can start that process with the Freedom of Information Act demand, but eventually you're going to have an attorney who really knows his way around the judicial system.
I wouldn't even have the first clue of who to look to.
Well, I tell you what, we can refer you to the LA County Bar Association. If you want us to refer you to somebody else, there are a number of lawyers that we know of that do this stuff. Send us an email to legalhelplive@gmail.com, legalhelplive@gmail.com. Remind us of the conversation that we talked about, a little bit about the facts. We'll send you back an email of 2 or 3 lawyers you can get a hold of that do criminal law. Go in and get a consultation, and then see what they say.
I just can't tell you how this has just ruined.
Okay, well,
just
I'm trying to
ruined my chances of getting any kind of. I mean, I can't even get in the damn post office with
Yeah.
literally 100% on the test.
Well, I think there's things that can be done for you, and I think you should take advantage of.
Yeah, we can't
Okay.
reverse what's happened for the last 30 years, but maybe we can reverse that conviction. And today's
I hate to vent with you, but I'm just so livid. I only recently learned about it, and I'm just
today's the day to start. By the way, tomorrow.
What was that movie, Fatal Attraction?
I'm a PBS watcher.
1-800-405-4222 is the number you call tomorrow to get your gift certificate for dinner for 2 at a restaurant of Season My Choice.
And the Gmail is legalhelplive@gmail.com. Legalhelplive, one word, @gmail.com. Remind us of this conversation on the air, and we'll try and get you to somebody that can help you out.
Well, thank you for the one positive reply I've heard on this issue so far.
Well,
even from family, they said, "Don't turn over this stinky subject." I'm just like, "Oh my God."
Oh, well, you got to live your.
Worse.
It may be worth your while to pursue it.
It can't get worse. You've already got the conviction. You've already got the stigma. It'll only get better.
Okay, gentlemen.
All right, Mark. Thank you very much for the call. Good
Thank
call.
you much. God bless y'all.
Interesting issue. God bless you as well. Next call. Who's out there? Oh.
Michael, wherever you are, this is Ralph and Steve in space taking your call. How can we help you?
Yes, I got a question. If I got traffic violations, I got deducted out before, correct? And I was wondering, do the police have a right to search my home?
Wait, you have a traffic violation.
Wait, there's a warrant outstanding.
It's gone to warrant because you did not appear in court when you were supposed to.
Yes.
And the police come to your house to serve the warrant?
No, I was wondering, do they have the right to have a search warrant?
Yeah,
for my house?
okay. If they come to your house and they knock on the door and they got a warrant and you open the door and they come in and they say, "We're going to arrest you, put your clothes on," anything they see in plain sight, they can bust you for those crimes based on them being legally inside of your house.
Technically that's not a search. That's what Steve said is plain sight. That means it's just right in front of them.
And if you're arrested in the car, they can legally search the car because there's a bunch of law that says they can do that. And they can pat you down for weapons. But they can't just come in with an arrest warrant for a traffic ticket and search your whole house.
Okay, that's.
But why don't you get it cleaned up?
Oh, I got it cleaned up today because a neighbor said they were sitting outside my home. That's what I was wondering, should they actually come in my home? I didn't get to see the guy. So a neighbor of mine said they were sitting outside my home waiting for me.
Well, they're not waiting on a traffic warrant. I don't want you to cop out on the air what you've been doing, but I bet you there's some other little things that you've been doing that they're either looking into you or someone else in your neighborhood. But if you've got traffic warrants outstanding, you need to go into the court, find the public defender if they've gone to warrant, and figure out how you can get them cleaned up, either paying the fine or doing community service. Because what happens, you get stopped for something else, and they'll arrest you on the warrant.
Okay, you cleared up a lot of things for me.
Say that again?
You cleared up a lot of things for me.
Okay, very, very good.
And call the 800 number that's on the screen, and you'll have dinner or lunch at a restaurant of our choosing, and that's the number. Call during normal business hours. tell them you want a dinner or lunch on Legal Help Live, and have a great day. And I hope you don't get arrested. And if you're doing illegal things in your house, you better cover up, because they can arrest you coming in on a warrant if they see it in plain sight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Michael, you're gonna go to court. You're gonna take care of your warrant, and then you're gonna go.
It was a warrant for a DWI. That's what it was for.
Oh, that's much more serious.
Go find the public
take
defender.
care of it. Take care of it, and then go out and have lunch on us.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call, Michael. Interesting situation. You know what? It's time for us to take a short break, so we're going to do that. But then we'll be right back in just a moment or two. We'll be taking your calls right here at 1-800-405-4222, and we'll see you in a moment.
Stay tuned for more Legal Help Live.
Our doors are open to all at St. Joseph Center, where we provide intervention, prevention, and education services. Our early childhood development centers encourage learning while parents seek work. Families receive food for the week. Case managers counsel seniors, veterans, and families. We also teach job skills to young and old. Experience the joy of helping at St. Joseph Center. We're planting hope, growing lives for all those in need.
A stranger on the phone said I won a sweepstakes, but I was smarter.
Someone tried to open a credit card in my name, but I was smarter.
A friend said I should sign my house over to him, but I was smarter.
The Los Angeles County Department of Consumer Affairs can help you avoid scams and protect your financial well-being. Don't become another victim of fraud. Call the Department of Consumer Affairs and we'll help you be
Smarter Seniors.
Before Christmas, my life was a mess. I was incarcerated, a drug addict, totally confused, and didn't have any sense of direction. Some of the things they did is they gave me mock interviews, they assist me with my application. What I'm doing now, I work for a company that gives me a lot of responsibilities, and it's been great. It's been good.
After my service ended, the biggest battle I faced was readjusting to civilian life.
New Directions provides services specifically for women like you who face homelessness, substance abuse, and trauma.
I joined the military to save lives. New Directions helped me save my own.
If you were honorably discharged from the military, you're entitled to veteran services. Go to ndvets.org for help.
Okay, Ralph here, Steve there. Legal Help Live, 1-800-405-4222. Those are all the salient facts. People are calling us and asking legal questions about...
A lot of them today.
Yeah, about being run over by mail trucks. We haven't gotten that call yet, but I know that person's out there. What happens if you're in a crosswalk and somebody runs you over? What happens if you're jaywalking and somebody runs you over? Different issue?
What happens if you go in these new crosswalks that you see now that have all these flashing signs, etc.?
Yeah.
And it's 10 o'clock at night, and you go in there and you press the button, and you start to walk, and you realize after a few steps that it's not flashing, and you get run over by an uninsured driver, and you're horribly hurt. Who's liable for it?
Who do you go after in that circumstance? Maybe the government entity that put the sidewalk in and the lights in. Maybe that's a possibility.
And what do you do in a situation where you've got a neighbor who's been giving you all kinds of problems, and their house burns down? And
what happens if you live in the city of Los Angeles or a city with a similar municipal code, and your neighbor's dog bites you, bites a neighbor, and bites some other neighbor's dog and eats a cat? Do you have any recourse for any of that?
And what rights do animals have? This is a big area today, and the courts have been kind of opening and moving this area. If your pooch, Saltzman, gets hurt or injured in front of you, can you sue the person that did it? Not for just the cost that you paid for Saltzman, your favorite dog, but for the emotional distress you suffered by virtue of losing Saltzman.
Right, and similarly, your cat Solomon is in a crosswalk and gets run over. Is anybody liable for the cat that's seriously injured? It could cost thousands of dollars, or you could be run over by a herd of cows.
Or
one never knows in the city.
Who's responsible in the west part of the city, or in the Altadena, Glendale, north part of the valley, when the coyotes come out of the hills because there's no water or food up there, and it's a dry season, and start eating various animals or attacking people in the neighborhood? Is the government liable for that, for not maintaining the...
Interesting question. Very interesting question. So if you have a question like that, or any question at all, yes? Go ahead.
Or what do we do? And the serious question that's going around now is should we have better gun control? Or can we regulate guns? Is the true hunter a person who needs a semi-automatic 18-shot rifle attack weapon that you can press your finger like this and shoot 18 quick rounds off?
Should there be a new statute, and should that statute redefine what an attack weapon is?
And can you, under
an
the
assault weapon,
under the Second Amendment, require people to only buy 6 bullets at a time, get a license for bullets, not have automatic rifles? Can you license this? What happens if inadequate background checks are done? What do we do about that?
Well, what happens if there's a background check done and it turns out that the information that is brought to light is completely wrong? A gun is sold, and the owner of the gun injures or kills somebody. Is there some liability there for the store that sold the gun? Certainly there's liability for the person who shot, but how about the store that sold the gun to the person?
What about the police officer who stops somebody that they think is drunk, and they decide not to arrest them, and the person drives down the street and a block later runs over somebody in a crosswalk and kills them? Is a government or city or county liable for not taking or arresting that person?
How about if somebody calls 911 and gives the police false information, and the police go out based upon that false information and believe that they're facing a much more dangerous situation than reality presents? Similar to the Pasadena police officer and the Kendry McDade case, the district attorney just rejected a criminal violation for Pasadena police officers who shot and killed an unarmed man, 19-year-old Kendrick McDade. In fact, the police officers were responding to a 911 call, and the information they received under 911 was that McDade was armed. It turned out he wasn't, but the police officers thought he was, and they came to that scene with a very specific mindset of the level of danger they were facing, and as a result of that, the district attorney's office just said no criminal violation was committed by the police officers.
Well, you know, we've got all the situations in Halloween when people dress up in costumes and have pretend guns and wearing all these outfits, et cetera, and get involved with law enforcement and suddenly pull out their
plastic gun.
Their plastic gun.
That looks just like
it doesn't
the real
have the
thing.
red tip on it, or it's dark so you can't see the red tip, or they pull out their laser Star Wars weapon, and the officer believes that it's a shotgun or a rifle, and shoots the person. All kinds of interesting questions, not lots of answers for any of them.
No, but it's interesting for discussion. And by the way, when you call that 1-800-405-4222 toll-free number and you get onto the show and you ask a legal question and you get a legal answer, you will also get a gift certificate for 2 for dinner at a restaurant of Steve's and My Choice.
And here's my now case, the the case of the year, which I think is quite interesting. Once in a while, I run across these when I'm looking up as to what is sort of interesting on the show or not interesting. But Ghirardelli, which is a very famous chocolate company,
San Francisco,
is facing a class action in federal court because it sold white chocolate chip cookies or chips, chocolate chips,
Yeah,
white
they
chocolate
would
chips.
sell the chips.
And the allegations of the lawsuit says it doesn't contain any white chocolate.
Doesn't contain any chocolate.
Well,
But
it
what
says
is white chocolate?
It says it doesn't contain any white chocolate.
But no, it's all white chocolate. But white chocolate isn't chocolate.
And he bought it, and Scott Miller bought a package of Ghirardelli's white chocolate chips in June, and discovered the next day they didn't taste like white chocolate. And that's now, case has been allowed to proceed as a class action.
So wait, it wasn't even white chocolate?
It wasn't white chocolate. Well, he's alleging that. So for all you candy lovers out there is hope when you buy white chocolate and don't get white chocolate. To me, this sounds sort of like the lawsuits over the hot coffee that spilled.
Oh yeah. Well, that turned out to be a real serious issue with coffee that was artificially overly hot. It was overheated, and it was brewed that way so that I think it was McDonald's, would spend less money per cup of coffee. And so it was a profit incentive. They knew what they were doing.
I understand.
And there were some serious injuries.
I understand the nature of the allegations, but sometimes with the judicial system we're dealing with, should we be dealing with white chocolate versus dark chocolate, and whether the coffee's too hot or not, and I may get burnt a little bit, or is that just sort of the risk we face?
And what happens if somebody comes in and eats the evidence?
Yeah. Living in a metropolitan community, I think that personally the white chocolate Ghirardelli case is sort of like the McDonald's coffee case, and I've heard both sides of it.
That came in with a verdict.
Yeah, well,
we'll see what happens with the San Francisco Chocolate Company.
Or it's the administrative law judge who took his pants in or shirt in to the launder, and they screwed up his shirt, and he wanted something like
like $1 million.
$1 million, and they offered to pay and take care of the shirt, and he said no.
He took it to trial.
He
and
lost,
and I think he had to pay attorney's fees.
Yeah,
it didn't end well. Well, I've got one here. It is out of state. It's in state. It's San Diego Superior Court. This fellow, Eduardo Macias, is on trial for attempted murder. He's in the middle of a jury trial. He somehow hides, he's in custody. He hides a razor, brings it into court, and slashes his defense counsel's face in front of the jury. And the judge told the defense counsel he could no longer represent Mr. Macias, that Mr. Macias had lost his right to counsel. He had to represent himself. There's a counsel standing by to give assistance, but Mr. Macias is now in pro per, meaning he's representing himself. Folks, we've got to take a break.
You don't think an electric razor substitution might have been a better solution? I mean,
yeah, probably.
Another lawyer and an electric razor.
But then you got to charge it, and you got to do all the cleaning. And
what do you think about, the poor lawyer that's representing somebody and gets a close shave based on that? I don't know.
That's brilliant. I love it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be taking your call, 1-800-405-4222. We'll see you in a moment.
Stay tuned for more Legal Help Live.
$5 feeds 20 people?
Pretty amazing, huh?
Who gets this food?
Seniors, Gulf War veterans, and families trying to make ends meet.
All right, here's $5. Wow, that was fast.
We don't mess around.
How fast can you make this work?
Thank you.
No, miss. Thank you.
You can be a hero too. Please donate to the Westside Food Bank.
Hey kids, what if you saved enough money to buy your own thing?
You could buy a video game or even a car one day. You could even help your parents out and pay your own way through college. Let's start by playing a fun game I created just for you. Begin by splitting up every dollar you receive. Put 7 dimes in your spending jar, 2 dimes in your save-a-little jar, and 1 dime in your future jar. To find out more about this game, have your parents help you log on to kidsfinance.com.
Being in foster care was like always living in someone else's house. Being adopted means me and my brother and my sister never have to move again. Last week, our new parents took us to the beach. We'd never seen the ocean before. We collected seashells, and we ate ice cream, and we built a sandcastle, and it was awesome.
Small things mean a lot to a child in foster care. For more information on how you can foster or adopt a child, contact Share Your Heart LA today.
As life transitions,
Volunteer opportunities.
senior resources,
Your trusted source.
Okay, we're back. Ralph here, Steve there. Steve's the one with the water, and I'm the one with the pen. We're taking your calls at 1-800-405-4222. That's a toll-free number, and if you call in, get on the air, ask a legal question, get a legal answer. You also get a gift certificate for 2 for dinner at a restaurant of Steve's and My Choice.
You're doing this show for 7 years, and I've never seen you in a suit before.
Seriously? No, come on.
Not in this show.
Really?
I don't think so. I can't remember.
Well, I always used to wear a suit on radio.
Yeah, on radio, you look like a... Couldn't you be in the same booth with you, I remember? I was wondering whether you showered when you showed up there.
Never.
You know?
No, not for radio.
That was the beauty of radio. People can't see.
We could say what we were wearing, but we didn't have to tell the truth. Okay, let's go back to the phones and talk to Carrie. Carrie, come on in and talk to us.
Hey, so I had a question about parking meters. I got a ticket, but the parking meter was broken when I got the ticket. So what I did is I took, with my little phone, I took the picture of the parking meter to show that it was broken at the time. Is it too much hassle? Should I try to go to court and deal with this, or should I just pay like the $35 and have it over with?
Well, that's a decision for you to make.
What city?
Santa Monica. Santa Monica.
Olympic Boulevard was where I got the ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the state legislature passed a statute that basically says, under most circumstances, you can park for free at a broken meter unless a city has adopted an ordinance or resolution that is to the contrary.
And both the City of Los Angeles, which we don't care about right this second, and the City of Santa Monica, which is the subject of what you're calling about, have enacted those municipal ordinances and resolutions so that in Santa Monica, if the parking meter is broken, you are not allowed to park there. Actually, based upon some conversations that I've had with Santa Monica parking folks, I'm a little bit surprised that you got a ticket. However, the ordinance says that if the parking meter is broken, you cannot park there at all. In addition to that, what the City of Santa Monica is doing and the City of Los Angeles is not doing is when a parking meter has time left on it and the car pulls away from the parking spot, the parking meter, technologically advanced as they are, now will reset itself to 0 time, so that no longer in Santa Monica will you be finding parking meters with time left on them. In the City of LA, you will. City of Santa Monica, you won't when the technology is put in place. It may be now.
So the answer to the question is you can use your iPhone or your other device and take a picture. Probably you're going to lose the battle, but you might have some other equity considerations. You got to realize that you're not in an area of anything. This is the taxation, or as they call it, they're renting you the space. And as a landlord, they want to get as much as they can for the space, and they want it going 24 hours a day. The biggest thing out there is it used to be at 6 o'clock,
yes,
the meters were free.
Now you're getting
free.
Now you're
Remember
aggravating
the
me.
word free? It's descriptive of what I'm talking about. Free. Well, they're not 6 anymore. They're 8. They're 9.
Yeah.
They're 24 hours.
Yeah, some of them are 24 hours.
It's sort of like the great American dream, you know, own the laundromat. This is what they used to tell people. Own a laundromat, and when you're sleeping, the machines are working for you. There is nothing free anymore at all. Period.
That's true.
So I suggest that you are probably not going to win. But I've been wrong before. I mean, I thought that I wouldn't be practicing law with Saltzman here.
More than 25 minutes.
And I based it on looks, and I made a real
But
mistake.
he doesn't look that bad anymore. Okay.
And how does, just to follow up, how well do the camera phone pictures really hold up in court?
Well,
I mean, on other topics as well.
It depends how clear they are and what the pixel level is, and whether or not somebody believes the picture has been doctored or edited. You know, it used to be that a picture would be it, but there are so many ways to change things today. And we have cases going right now where the issue is whether or not the video cameras were doctored or the date timestamps were doctored.
There's home level technology that can place you in a photograph or take you out of a photograph or a video. You can be doing things that you've never done in a place where you've never been, and it could be clear as day on a video. So sometimes a little bit suspect.
On the other hand, there's always a presumption when you put that picture from your little iPhone up onto the television screen in a courtroom that picture is real, especially when you play it through a television when most of the jurors are used to looking at, oh yeah, this is the real deal right here.
Yeah.
But a lot of this stuff.
And also you'll be testifying, or whoever took the video or the photograph will be testifying that video or photograph accurately depicts the scene shown in the video or the photograph, and that'll be under penalty of perjury.
Are you a winner or are you a loser?
I want to be a winner.
Okay, well, we can help you with that because you're going to call us tomorrow at 1-800-405-4222 and claim a gift certificate for dinner or lunch for 2 at a restaurant of Steve's and My
Well,
Choice.
if you were a real winner, I would say $1 million retainer on your traffic ticket would really make you a winner.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys, and happy holidays.
You too, Carrie. Thanks for calling Legal Help Live. Okay, I think Michelle, let's talk to Michelle. Michelle, come on in and talk to us.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
What I was calling in regards to is on the parking meters. If you are handicapped, can you still park at an expired meter?
Well, that is a great question, you know. And I guess the question is, do you get the ticket or not? You know, you can use, first of all, the handicap certificate is good in all 50 states of the United States. So it's honored.
So if you have a California issued,
full
I didn't
faith
know
and
that.
credit. It's good in every state.
Yeah, it's worth a drive to New York.
In California, you can park. You can't park in a red zone, and you can't park in an intersection, but you can park in areas where they have the special permits, or you don't have to put any money in the meter to start. Therefore, I would assume, and I would assume, and I'm not 100% correct on this, since you can park when there's no money in it at all, you should be able to park when it's broken.
Yeah, I would have to also assume that that's true, because if you have a handicap placard and it's properly over the rear view mirror, there is no reason for you to go to the meter to check it. So I would assume that if the parking meter is broken and there's no reason for you to know that it's broken to begin with, that it would be beyond the parking meter's jurisdiction to give you a ticket.
And you can also get gas pumped if you have a handicap permit and pull into a gas station.
Yeah, you got to be at a gas
and
station.
you don't get charged the self-service, the full service.
The full service
You
charge.
can go to the low price gas area, stick the thing in, show them your placard, and they've got to give you full service for
I'd never
low
heard of
service
that.
prices.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
But you know what we'll do? This is an interesting question, and my expert to the left here, Busy Beaver Saltzman, will check it out. And if we're not correct, the next time we're on the air, we'll tell you we're not correct. But in the meantime, I think you're pretty safe.
So even with the new meters that are out, whether they're broken or not, you can still park there.
Yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing?
because if they're zero on them, you can park there and you don't have to put any money on. Therefore, they're not working. It would seem to be the same logic. But
logic would dictate that there's no violation if you have a handicap placard.
Call the Parking Enforcement Bureau and ask them. And in the meantime, we'll check it out, research it out, and next time we're on the air, we'll tell you what our research was. And if you're in doubt, don't park there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And you've won. You have just earned dinner or lunch for two at a restaurant of our choosing. If you call the 800 number, which they'll pop back on the screen for you at normal business hours. For lawyers, it's from 12 to 12:30. I'm just joking, from 9 to 5. And tell them you won a dinner or lunch at a restaurant of our choosing. They'll send it out to you.
Okay, Michelle, thank you very much for calling Legal Help Live. Interesting question. And it's always doubly interesting when we think we know the answer, but we've got to double check. That makes it doubly interesting, at least for me.
That's when you put on the visor and
the green
thing.
shade and all that stuff. And hunker down in the library with a warm
Well, there
laptop.
are no law lines. We have books behind us, but we're going to go to the new studio.
Are those books?
Those are books.
Who can remember?
They don't use this anymore. We're going to be in a new studio in March. They've just built a beautiful studio.
And we're going to take these books.
The books will not appear behind us anymore. It'll be a gorgeous setup, and we're looking forward to doing that.
Okay, here's a situation.
And by the way, if you have any other questions, and you're not comfortable asking them on the air, you can reach us on legalhelplive@gmail.com. And we'll try and return those questions.
Here's an interesting situation. In Knott, K-N-O-T-T County, Kentucky, the chief judge is going to go to jail. And the question is, will he be continuing while in jail to collect his salary and do administrative executive functions?
Why not?
As did his predecessor, who also went to jail.
Why not? What do we have? We have the tax assessor in L.A. County.
He just got a raise.
Is in jail at $2.5 million. And there's the audacity that he's getting paid by the taxpayers and got a raise while he's sitting in jail for allegedly embezzling and making deals on taxing and assessing. What's wrong with our system?
He got a raise because he hasn't been embezzling anything for weeks and weeks.
He's in jail. He can't do the job. And you and I and everybody else listening and watching us are paying this guy in jail his salary. It's got to be wrong. Does anybody out there believe what we're doing?
Here's another judge, and another. This guy's in.
That's why we've got all kinds of financial problems. Okay.
This guy's in Michigan. He's being investigated by the Judicial Committee in Michigan for having an affair with somebody who was a witness in a case that he presided over. Why are they investigating him? Because he called the police and said he was being stalked by this woman.
Well,
sometimes you shouldn't ask questions and you shouldn't bring disaster upon your own shoulders. It's time for us to go, so that's what we've got to do. It's been fun talking to you. It's been fun answering your legal questions. Ralph here and Steve there. It's always a wonderful experience for us, and I hope you learned something today. We'll be seeing you really soon right here on Legal Help Live, and we'll look forward to that.
And have a great day, and make sure to keep calling. And I think I've said enough. Let's get all the wars over. Let's bring our troops back home. Let's have a little more peace in the country, and let's get some control and handle on this gun control situation.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that.
And let's be nice to each other. It's a holiday season. Let's be nice to each other all year round. We'll see you all next time.